All right, we are back with another picks video. This time it's for UFC 258, which of course is headlined by Gilbert Burns, who will be challenging Kamaru Usman for the welterweight strap. It's long overdue. They were supposed to fight, I think, twice before. This is the third time it's been booked, and former teammates and everything. It's doesn't seem to be a whole lot of drama between the two. They seem to be respecting one another, but I can't wait. And the card's decent. It's got some good last minute additions. It looked pretty shallow a couple weeks ago, but they've added a couple decent fights to beef things up a bit. So we'll start right away with the opening fight of the evening. This is actually probably my favorite fight on the night. Julian Robertson versus Miranda Maverick. What do you have for that?
Well, I'm really looking forward to this one. As we know, Julian Robertson, she's great fighter on the ground. But Miranda Maverick, last time out, I think it was Liana Jojua, and I remember watching that. I predicted Jojua to come out with the win on that occasion, but wow, Miranda Maverick turned up massively. It's just, I didn't think that. I knew Jojua was able to be defeated, but that viciously, I didn't think that was going to happen. It's just the striking was impeccable that night. Could it happen again? 100%. I believe Miranda Maverick is going to win this fight, and I think she's going to win by decision. I don't think she'll put Julian Robertson away, but I think her striking is going to win this. I think she'll control the fight and cruise to a decision.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. Miranda Maverick is a savage. Even before she signed with the UFC, when she was in Invicta. Julian Robertson, obviously very, very talented, very gifted. She's always just kind of hung around the bottom half of the top 15 there. I think she fell out of it with her last loss. This fight reminds me a lot of the Macy Barber-Julian Robertson fight. Like, it's just, you're a young, up-and-coming prospect. You know, Julian Robertson's been that prospect forever. And the second she gets a hard-hitting striker, she tends to fold, and I feel like this fight is very, very similar. I like Julian Robertson. Obviously, she's Canadian, so I'd like to see her win. But I just think Miranda Maverick's got momentum right now. I think if the fight goes to the ground, Julian, obviously with a black belt, has the advantage. If it stays on the feet, Miranda does. But I see Miranda getting it done. I don't think she finishes her either. Second fight in the UFC, it's really you're not going to take as many risks. So I think Julian Robertson's tough, so I think they're just going to fight for 3 rounds, and Miranda Maverick's going to cruise to a decision.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I just think with how Miranda was last time out, obviously UFC debut, you want to go all out, get the win, and I think she'll be a bit more tentative this time and not go as hard. I think she'll try and make sure she can go the 3 rounds definitely in case she's not able to finish Julian, and I don't think she will, but I think she will cruise to not cruise, but I think she'll earn a comfortable decision win.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. It's a fun fight. I think this one really shouldn't be opening up the evening, but I like it. I like the fight. It should be further up. I think this could even be on the main card, but it is what it is. It makes us watch every fight.
Yeah,
so
indeed.
And then we'll jump into the next one. Gabriel Green, who lost to Daniel Rodriguez in his debut. No shame in that, knowing what Daniel Rodriguez is capable of doing. He's fighting the only person that's debuting on this card in Philip Rowe. So how do you have this one going?
I'm quite looking forward to this. I think Philip Rowe, he's got some good power in his hands, and I think the power aspect is going to be on his favour, and I think that's what's going to win him the fight. Really, I think the striking, I think he'll have the edge in, and I see him getting the win. I don't know if it'll be quite easily, but yeah, I do see him getting the win, and I think with the power in his hands, whether it's a flat-out knockout or if it's a overwhelming series of punches, I think he'll get the TKO win. I'm not sure what round, but I'm going to go for the TKO win for Rowe.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because although Philip Rowe has a very impressive 7-2 record, he looked very good against Edmund Shabazian's brother, Leon. That was his only win against an opponent with a positive record. So for me, it's like it's interesting because I'm not one to usually look at previous opponents, and there's a lot of examples of people who have had easier matchups and still compete at a very high level in the UFC. But when you look at Gabe Green, I mean, he went the decision with Daniel Rodriguez, showing that he's tough, he's durable. In fact, the last time he lost was 2017 in his fifth fight, against Jalen Turner, who we all know is very, very talented. What's interesting, though, is Gabe Green is a 55er. So he moved up to 170 for his debut, and obviously he's taking this fight as well at 170. So I think the size may be a factor in this one. I don't see either men getting finished, and I think that might actually favor Gabe Green. So I'm going to have Gabe Green going by decision, but I do think that there is obviously the likelihood of Philip Rowe finishing it, but there's just so many question marks for me because there's only one win that really stands out to me that was impressive.
100%.
Yeah, so that's how we have that one. And then we'll jump right into the long overdue fight, the one that everyone's been calling for. The two of them have been chirping at each other for quite some time, finally happening. Ricky Simon and Brian Kelleher.
I'm quite looking forward to this one. As we know, Ricky Simon, bright up-and-coming prospect, obviously, suffered the back-to-back losses against Uriah Faber and Rob Font, and I don't think he should have lost to Faber, but there's no shame in losing to Rob Font, as how we see where he is now, top 5 bantamweight, possibly competing for the title that come the end of the year, depending how many fights he gets in. But Brian Kelleher, obviously, can't look past him. I think this one, I've tossed and turned a bit. At the same time, I see Ricky Simon winning, but I also see Brian Kelleher winning, and that's what I think's so appealing for fans to watch this matchup. I've gone for the Brian Kelleher win. I just think he'll have the striking on his side. I think it will be not an easy night, but I've got a feeling that he's going to comfortably win. And I think how it's tough because I'm torn between a decision or a TKO, but I'm going to go for a TKO on Brian Kelleher's half, maybe late in the third.
Yeah, this one's interesting because, like you said, it's happened. It's been booked so many times too. And then what stands out to me is Ricky Simon just fought, and usually fighters with quick turnaround times aren't very successful. However, he was very dominant in that fight. It wasn't like he was tired. He didn't get hurt. So I don't know if that turnaround time is going to negatively affect him. Or positively affect him. I mean, he just got a tune-up fight. So I don't know. I don't know if that's going to factor into it at all. That being said, I think if there is a finish, I think it's Brian Kelleher. I mean, Booms looked very, very good, even against Hunter Azar, where I thought he was losing the fight and then caught him with that hook. Ray Rodriguez. List goes on and on. The guy is very, very exciting from the opening bell. That being said, Ricky Simon has seen guys that are better than Boom. He's fought Uriah Faber. He's fought Rob Font. He's fought these guys before, and there's nothing that is going to be he's not going to get hit with anything he hasn't been hit before. And for me, Ricky Simon, I think, is just the better fighter right now. So I think if both are on at 100%, I think Ricky Simon gets it done. Mm-hmm. That being said, I don't think he possesses the power to necessarily put away Boom. If Boom is on point. So I have it going decision. So I have Ricky Simon via decision.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this fight in because it hasn't been slotted in yet. We have no idea where it's going to fall on the card, but figured now is a good time. We just talked about two bantamweights. There's a 140-pound catchweight fight that just got announced. It just got slotted in. Andre Ewell, who was supposed to fight Cody Stamann, I think last weekend, has now been booked, and he's fighting Chris Gutierrez at a catchweight of 140 pounds. Chris Gutierrez is coming off of that draw, which I thought he won against Cody Durden, and before that, he looked very, very impressive against Vince Morales. So, who do you have winning that one?
I'm not sure because I didn't realize the fight had been booked, but if you want, I'll let you talk about it first, and then I'll base my results on that.
Sounds good. I mean, Chris Gutierrez for me has been he's looked very, very good in his last few fights. Mm-hmm. The Cody Durden one was a last-minute replacement. Before that, Vince Morales TKO via light kicks, which anytime someone does that, it's very impressive. Andre Ewell had that injury. And for me, that injury is, when someone's just coming off an injury, there's always going to be question marks. That being said, he was just supposed to fight Cody Stamann. So he's prepared. He's been more ready than Chris Gutierrez. Chris Gutierrez is getting this on no more than a week and a half's notice. So, yeah, for me, this is an easy one for me to pick. I could be completely wrong, but I think Andre Ewell. I just think that he's ready. He's talked about fighting 7 times in 2021. He's been ready. He was supposed to fight last week. So I have him just based on the fact that he's been ready.
Yeah, as you say, based on the fact he's been ready. Well, I didn't know he wanted to fight 7 times in 2021. He's going to be competing for the record of most fights. Well, I think that will be the most fights in a year.
It would be, yeah.
I think the record's 5 by quite a few people, but yeah, that would be great to see a guy fight 7 times in a year if he didn't take too much damage. But you know what? I'll go with the same result as you on Andre to win.
I like it. And then we're going to jump into the second female fight of the night, Polyana Viana, who's fighting Mallory Martin.
I'm looking forward to this one, but not as much as the Gillian Robertson and Miranda Maverick. I think, well, I know a lot of the women MMA fighters aren't going to care, but obviously recently the Stephen A. Smith comments have been reoccurring again, and I think a lot of women are trying they don't need to try the best because obviously they belong in there, but I think with big performances, then they can try and shut him up, basically. Yeah. And I don't blame him for doing, obviously the women belong in there. They've got the place in the cage. But this one, I am looking forward to, obviously, Mallory Martin and Polyana Viana, great fighters. I think Martin will edge this one via decision. I think she'll have the edge on the ground. I think she may control it a little bit on the ground. She's got the ground and pound, but I think she'll try use the striking as well. I think both women have the ability to take each other down, I think, but I'm going to go for a Mallory Martin via decision. How about you?
Yeah, I have Mallory Martin. I think she has the tools to finish Viana. Viana has been finished by Veronica Macedo via armbar, but she also just recently snapped a 3-fight losing streak by beating Emily Whitmire. Mm-hmm. So, the ground, I think this one is going to be an interesting one on the ground because they might just neutralize each other and it might end up playing out on the feet. And I think Mallory Martin just has the advantage there. So I am leaning Mallory Martin. They have a mutual opponent in Hannah Cyphers. Polyana Viana lost to Hannah Cyphers. Mallory Martin beat Hannah Cyphers. So MMA math never works, but no. I just thought I'd throw that in there. So I think Mallory Martin is better. I mean, her last 2 losses really have been to Verna Jandiroba and Macy Barber. So, no shame in either one of those 2 losses. Both of those women are flying up the light or the strawweight ranks. So, for me, I am looking at Mallory Martin, and I think she's got the tools to get it done. And as for that comment, like you said, I think right now women have something to prove, and not that they need to be. I think that some of the most exciting fights I've seen in the UFC have been women. So do I think they need to prove themselves? No, but I think that they have a chip on their shoulder. They're going to go out there and try to prove something. To us diehards, they have nothing to prove, but to people like Stephen A. Smith, they might go out there and start swinging. And I can't wait for this fight. I really think that this one's exciting as well as that opening one. And those are the only 2 women fights on the card. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what.
All women's fight, isn't there?
The co-main event. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Co-main event. All right, and then we'll jump into the next one. Belal Muhammad, who is the king of MMA Twitter. He is one of the funniest people on Twitter. Him and Derek Lewis are 1 and 2 in my eyes. Darren Till is probably close third, but he's returning. He just got his ranking, and he's got to defend it against Dhiego Lima. This was originally supposed to happen. Obviously got pushed. Your thoughts on who's going to win?
I'm quite looking forward to this one. Obviously, as we know, Dhiego Lima been in 2 seasons of tough. He's fought guys like Jesse Taylor. I know he didn't win that one. He defeated Gilbert Smith. He's had some good victories throughout his career. And Belal Muhammad, he's no guy to mess about with, obviously. As well as being the Twitter king, his main goal is going to be the welterweight king. And I think I'm looking forward to this one. I've got Lima winning via decision. I think both guys will be okay on the floor, but I think Lima will edge it on the feet and get a close decision. I don't think it'll be too dominant on either half. I think it'll be a close decision and it can go either way, but I'm going to go for the Dhiego Lima.
I like it. I mean, I think Belal Muhammad is the favorite going into this one, and I think he should be. I mean, he's ranked, right? So if he was the underdog, I'd be a little bit puzzled. That being said, man, Belal Muhammad's looked unbelievable. I feel like he's very underrated, like much like Michael Chiesa and Neil Magny. Like these guys are just, they're underappreciated. I mean, that being said, Dhiego Lima is on a 3-fight winning streak. He's looked great. Court McGee, Luke Jumeau, Chad Laprise, but he's coming off a long layoff due to injuries as well. So that I'm taking that into consideration. Belal Muhammad's recent wins are Lyman Good, Takashi Sato, Curtis Millender. His last loss was to Jeff Neal, and that went to decision. He didn't get finished by Jeff Neal, which shows how tough you have to be to take everything that man has to offer and still be standing. So I just feel like momentum's on Belal's going Belal's way right now. I feel like he's ranked and he's got more to prove at this point. Dhiego Lima, like one thing that we didn't mention is his brother's Douglas Lima. So he's going to get looks that, there's nothing that Belal's going to offer him that he hasn't seen before. Douglas Lima is one of the best welterweights in the world. So I think these guys are going to end up going to decision. As for which way it's going to go, you said Dhiego, so I'm going to go Belal. So let's mix things up a little bit. I have Belal winning it, and Belal has liked a few of my tweets. So Belal.
Why not?
All right, and then we've got Anthony Hernandez, who's fighting one of the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners we've seen in the UFC in a long time. Rodolfo Vieira, or Rodolfo, or however they pronounce it in Brazil.
I'm really looking forward to this one. Obviously, Anthony Hernandez, very good fighter, and obviously so is Rodolfo Vieira. I think this one is quite interesting. As you say, one of the best BJJ practitioners in the UFC at the moment. And Anthony Hernandez' last fight was against Kevin Holland, I believe. And obviously, that was last year. And as we know, Kevin Holland won every fight he had last year. So he's coming off the loss. But I don't know if I can bet against Vieira. I think the BJJ skills are just going to come into fruition here. I think early on he'll take him down. And I think he's going to be hunting for that submission all fight, even if that's first, second, or third round. And I do believe he'll get that. I've got Vieira winning by a decision. Just when someone's as great and dominant on the ground as Vieira, I think it's hard to say against them, to be honest. So, yeah, I'm going for a Vieira submission.
Yeah, so I'm in the exact same boat. I mean, Vieira is undefeated for a reason. He's finished every one of his opponents. You can talk about his jiu-jitsu credentials for days. You look at Anthony Hernandez, very, very good, very, very skilled. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but his recent finishes have all been via submission. Mm-hmm. So the last time he got a knockout was in 2014. I don't see that. I don't think he has the power necessarily to put away Vieira, and I don't think he has the ability to submit him. So it's either he wins via decision or Vieira finishes him. And 15 minutes is a long time to be in there with a guy that skilled, a guy that dangerous on the mat. So for me, Vieira is going to take this. I think he finishes it with submission first, second round. As soon as it goes to the ground, I think he's just going to have his way with Hernandez. I like Hernandez. I think he's very, very good. I just think that Vieira is a tough matchup.
100%. I agree with that. When someone's that dominant and skilled on the ground, it's just very difficult to say against them.
I mean, you look at Damian Maya. I mean, the only people that have really been able to hurt him are people who have power,
Yeah.
right? So even like Tyron Woodley was hesitant because he didn't want to grapple. The only person that was even entertained the grappling was Gilbert Burns because he's just as good, maybe not quite as good, but he's very, very good on the ground as well. So it's hard because the second you get grabbed, it's done. And how do you avoid that for 15 minutes? It's a long time to be avoiding any sort of grappling exchanges.
Yeah.
And then another late addition, not as late as the Gutierrez fight, but Bobby Green is fighting Jim Miller, a battle of two veterans. I like it. I love this fight.
100% same here. Obviously, both guys veterans. Jim Miller last out, I think he lost it 2-5-3. Sorry, Miocic Cormier. I think that card. But before that, I think he got a submission victory. I'm looking forward to this. I'm a big fan of Jim Miller, and this fight I am looking forward to. I just think it's got the abilities to be a great fight, but obviously two veterans, it can have the ability to be not the greatest fight. But I've got a feeling it'll be a good one. I think Jim Miller, great fighter. So is Bobby Green. But if I'm going to give a prediction, I'm gonna say Jim Miller submission.
It's an interesting one. I mean, this is hard because I like both men so much. Like I love them both. Bobby Green had one of the best years in 2020 of any fighter in the UFC. He had that controversial loss to Thiego Moises. Outside of that, you could have said he was contender for fighter of the year. Very, very good year. Jim Miller also had a decent year. Obviously, it lost last time out to Vince Pichel. And what's interesting about Bobby Green is he hasn't been finished since Dustin Poirier back in 2016. He has a lot of losses since, but they've all been decisions. And he has wins over guys like Clay Guida, Lando Venata, Eric Koch. So he's got some big names there. Jim Miller I find he's hit or miss, right? Like he can go out there and look like a world beater like he did against Roosevelt Roberts, who was supposed to steamroll him, or he could go out and get finished. I don't see either man being finished here. I don't think that they're going to be able to finish each other. They're both so experienced. So for me, this is going to go to decision. As for who's going to win it, this for me is a toss-up. I don't know who's going to win this one. 1 minute I'm thinking Jim Miller. Another minute I'm thinking Bobby Green. But I just think if you look at the last 4 fights of both men, Bobby Green's look better. So not like that matters. Anything can happen. But for me, like just based on the last 4 fights, Bobby Green's got more going his way. So for me, Bobby Green. That being said, I'm a diehard Jim Miller fan.
Yeah.
I love Jim Miller. I've been a fan of him forever. So I don't usually root for fighters, but I really like Jim Miller. So, but I just think Bobby Green's going to get it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a matchup. I don't know if he'll get a submission, and I just guess that just because I'd like to see it, but it's a toss-up. Either guy could win this.
Yeah. I think if you're going to say any fight on this card is a toss-up, I'd say it's this one. Yeah, and then we'll jump right into the main card. So we've got a fun fight with Maki Pitolo fighting Julian Marquez.
I'm really looking forward to this one. Obviously, Julian Marquez has been unlucky with injuries, and I think he had a fight cancelled last year. So 2.5 years, not his fault that he's not been in the cage, but it depends. I'm 50-50 sometimes on a believer of ring rust. I think sometimes it can show, because I think it was Santiago Ponzinibbio wasn't in the cage for a while, and obviously ended up getting finished in his last fight after an 8-fight win streak. So in that case, yeah. But a lot of the time, I don't think ring rust is as much as an issue as some people make it out to be. Because if you get in the rounds in sparring with top guys, then it's just preparing you for the best what you can do in the cage. Julian Marquez, I do like watching him. He's got some great power in his hands, but Maki Pitolo's no guy to overlook in any way. But just based on the fact he's been gone 2.5 years, I think he's going to want to come back with a real bang. Julian Marquez, the power in his hands, I think is going to be immense. I'm going for a Marquez TKO finish. I'm not sure what round, because with anyone with huge power, it can come with anytime one punch. So I'm going to go for a Julian Marquez via finish.
Yeah, this one's exciting. Like, this one has all the makings of being one of the best fights we've seen in 2021. Maki Pitolo has been struggling. Yeah, that's the best way to put it. He hasn't looked great in his last few fights. That being said, Julian Marquez has been inactive, so he hasn't fought since 2018, which is a very, very long time to not be inside the cage. That being said, he's never been finished. His only two losses are early in his career when he fought for Bellator and Alessio De Chirico, which was a split decision. He's never been finished. He's finished guys like Phil Hawes and Darren Stewart. So for me, he's very, very talented, very, very good, and very tough. Maki Pitolo's best bet is to finish his opponents. I don't think he's going to be able to finish Julian Marquez. So I have Julian Marquez, and I think Julian Marquez can finish him. So I'm going to go second round TKO for Julian Marquez. I'd like to add something here as well. Last time Punahele Soriano fought Dusko Todorovic, I quickly skimmed through the card, and I thought he was Maki Pitolo. So I wrote Dusko Todorovic down, and I got the pick wrong. So I just wanted to throw that in there, that I was not wrong with that pick. I was just I was ignorant and didn't actually look at the whole thing. Yeah. So to anybody who's trust my picks, which isn't very many people, that's my excuse for getting that one wrong. And then we'll jump into Pedro Munhoz versus Jimmy Rivera, the rematch.
Two very talented guys. Obviously, Jimmy Rivera, great fighter, and so is Pedro Munhoz. Obviously, last time out for Pedro was against, I believe it was Frankie last time out, I think. And many people believe he won that fight. It was a split decision loss. A lot of people don't think Frankie did enough on the night to win, but nonetheless, the results stood, and unfortunately, Pedro didn't get the win. He's got some power in his hands. To be fair, Pedro, but he's also got a decent ground game as well. I think the striking's going to be the main aspect for Munhoz. I think whether it goes to the ground and he uses ground and pound or uses the hit boxing, kickboxing, standing up, I think I'm going for Pedro on this fight, and I think, like I said, whether it's ground or pound on the feet, I think he's going to get a TKO finish.
Pedro Munhoz looked unbelievable against Frankie Edgar. I think a lot of people thought he won that fight. I love Frankie, so my bias kicked in. I thought Frankie won, but I think bias had something to do with it. But he was right there. Pedro Munhoz looked very good. You could have given it his way. Jimmy Rivera, I mean, you look at his last 5 opponents, and it's ridiculous. Marlon Moraes, John Dodson, Aljamain Sterling, Petr Yan, Cody Stamann. Ridiculous. His only 3 losses are Marlon Moraes, Aljamain Sterling, and Petr Yan, as you would expect. But he went the distance with the 2 men that are going to compete for the bantamweight strap, Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan. So if Petr Yan can't finish him, I don't know if Pedro Munhoz would be able to. He's very, very good. His only loss in the UFC via stoppage is to Marlon Moraes, and that was the old Marlon Moraes, who was finishing everybody left, right, and center. Pedro Munhoz, Aljamain Sterling, Frankie Edgar, and John Dodson are his 3 losses. All went to decision. I don't see him being finished either. So this is exciting. This is likely going to go to the scorecards. His last win was his knockout of Cody Garbrandt, which was unbelievable. So this one's really, really exciting. I think this is the winner of this enters that discussion. They're probably not going to be next in line, but they could get the likes of TJ Dillashaw or Rob Font or one of these guys that are there at the top. So I'm going to go Jimmy Rivera. I think right now he looked very good against Cody Stamann. I thought he looked I don't know, even he had that long layoff, but he came back and he looked very impressive. So I'm going to go with him. I think that he's going to win this one. And Pedro Munhoz won the last one, did he? No, Jimmy Rivera. So I think Jimmy Rivera is going to go 2-0. And we've seen that even last weekend there was a rematch. Who rematched? There was a rematch. Beneil Dariush and Carlos Dhiego Ferreira. And he won the rematch, and it was closer than the first one. So I think this one's actually going to be razor thin. It's going to go either way, but I'm going to go Jimmy Rivera.
100%. It could go either way, but an exciting fight to look forward to nonetheless.
Now we've got Ian Heinisch who's fighting Kelvin Gastelum. Ridiculous.
This one, I'm a big fan of Kelvin, and I'm kind of worried about this fight because if he wins, he's now slipped down to rank number 9, which was shocking considering he was challenging for the title just 2-3 years ago. And if he wins, he may move up to rank 8, I think, maybe. But Ian Heinisch, ranked number 15. If Kelvin loses, he's going even further down the table, and it could be potentially looking at maybe leaving the UFC after 4 straight losses in there. And as a big Kelvin fan, like I said, I'm worried about this one just in case he loses. But I think he's gonna be going on the right track. I think Ian Heinisch, as great as a fighter he is, I think Kelvin's just going to be too determined to get back in the win column. Hopefully get another fight and then potentially be looking at getting back into the top 5. And it is possible for Kelvin. I think given the fight with Adesanya, Adesanya won that fight, don't get me wrong, but if it was a different night, Kelvin could well have won the fight with how he performed. I'm going to go for a Kelvin Gastelum decision, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if Ian got a decision as well.
Yeah, this one's close. When this was initially announced, I was worried because, well, like you, I like Kelvin Gastelum, and he's on a 3-fight losing skid. I hate seeing guys on a losing skid matched up with a guy on a win. Ian Heinisch is very dangerous. He's very good. He's never been finished in his UFC career. He's never been finished in his career. So I don't know if Kelvin Gastelum will be able to put him away. That being said, Kelvin Gastelum's durable. I mean, his only loss was to Jack Hermanson via submission. That's the only time he's been finished in the UFC. So very good fight for both. But I'm scared. I'm scared for Kelvin Gastelum. But that being said, I just think he's fought higher level opposition. I mean, Jack Hermanson, Israel Adesanya, Chris Weidman. Like, he's fought much better opposition than Ian Heinisch. Ian Heinisch's losses are Derek Brunson, Omari Akhmedov, who are no slouches either. But I think Kelvin Gastelum has a little bit more of experience in these big fights. So for me, that's going to be the difference maker. I have Kelvin Gastelum via decision.
Yeah, like you say, the experience is going to be on Kelvin's part. He's fought some of the best guys in the world: Israel Adesanya, Darren Till, Michael Bisping, you name it. Chris Weidman. He's fought his fair share of potential legends and legends within the sport. So there's no doubt the experience is going to be on his half. And I'm predicting Kelvin to win, and I'm hoping the experience will play the factor in there that he can get the job done, because if he doesn't, I've got a feeling he might be out of the UFC, and no disrespect, but potentially heading over to Bellator.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks when a guy like as gifted as him and like guys like Yoel Romero, the reason he got cut wasn't because he wasn't a good fighter. It was because you're on a skid and you're getting paid so much, right? Like Kelvin Gastelum, if he loses and it's like, you know what, give me 40-40, pay me $40,000 to win a show, guarantee you the UFC would re-sign him. But if you're on a 4-fight losing streak, making as much money as you do, it's kind of hard for the UFC to justify it, because they're going to have to pay you that amount for 2-3 years for you to become a contender again. So I like it. As much as I don't like it, I think he might have a point where if he does lose this, they may be looking at, going to another organization. But I hope for his sake he sticks around regardless of if he wins or loses, because I'm a diehard Kelvin Gastelum fan. I've liked him since The Ultimate Fighter. I liked how he was the underdog and he made it all the way to the finals and beat the scariest guy in the history of the show. So to see him, on a 4-fight losing streak would suck.
100%.
And then the co-main event, which is a shocking co-main event for a lot of people, but I love this fight. I love Macy Barber. I love Alexa Grasso. So I hate the matchup because I like both women. But who do you have winning this one?
I love the fight, but I would have liked to see a more appealing co-main event, to say the least. Obviously, the co-main was scheduled to be Uriah and Chris rematch, I believe, and obviously that's now being rescheduled for April. Can't do anything about that, but may not be the most eye-catching of fights, but nonetheless, we've got a fight in our hands. Macy Barber and Alexa Grasso. I'm a big fan of Macy Barber and, well, both girls, basically. I think they've both got some real talent in them, and I'm interested to see how this goes. I think it goes the full 15 minutes, and I think if I'm going to give a prediction, I'm going to say Macy Barber, just based on, I think she'll have the better ground game, and I think she'll use that to an advantage and potentially take her down and keep her there. So I'm going to go for a Macy Barber by decision.
Yeah, I like this fight. You look at Macy Barber, and I mean, she had so much momentum. The girls she finished, the way she was doing it was something we hadn't seen in the lighter divisions there for the women. And you lose to Roxanne Modafferi. There's no shame in that. And what she showed in that fight was how tough she was. I mean, she was injured. She couldn't stand, and she went in there and hung in there, went the distance with one of the most experienced women in all of MMA. Alexa Grasso, her last loss was a very close split decision to Carla Esparza. So that's another one where you're like, no shame in that loss either. Macy Barber's taking some time off. She hasn't fought in over a year by the time this fight happens. I actually think the time off is going to benefit her, because when you had so much momentum and so much pressure on you, all the eyes are on you, I think that may have played a factor in that fight as well. So I think taking a step back, the pressure's off now. I think that's going to benefit her, and I think she has a lot of power. She's very good. She's very good on the ground, and she's a lot bigger. She is bigger than Alexa Grasso. Grasso's fought at strawweight. She's moving up. Macy Barber's the bigger girl, and I think that's going to be a factor. She's going to possess a little bit more power, a little bit more strength, and I think Macy Barber wins it. I'm also going to go decision. I think she's not going to be as don't know how to word this in a way that I don't think she's going to take as many risks on the feet. I don't think she's going to just go out there and bull rush. I think she's going to be more tactical. She's going to be more methodical with her approach. She's going to have a better game plan, and I think she's going to win it via decision.
100%, I agree with you there. Obviously, she's got the ability to finish her, but I think she'll be less risk taking, as you say, and I think Macy will get the decision.
All right, and then we've got the main event, the long-awaited main event, the one that we've been waiting for several months now. It was supposed to happen on a few different occasions. Former teammates, former friends. They've had over 1,000 hours of sparring together. Ridiculous. Kamaru Usman, Gilbert Burns. Not a whole lot of trash talk. The two of them are very, very respectful. I like that. Your thoughts on the fight and who's going to win?
I've seen a lot of people say they're not looking forward to this fight due to, I know he's not the most exciting champion, but he's a very dominant one in Usman, and being a very talented fighter on the ground, Gilbert Burns as well. But I can't wait for this one. But Kamaru Usman, great wrestler, and Gilbert Burns, I'm sure he's a BJJ black belt. I think this has the ability to be potential fight of the year contender in terms of a BJJ wrestling fight. But I think I've seen a lot of people think Burns will finish Usman, and no disrespect to Burns, but I think that's preposterous. I don't think many people are finishing Usman anytime soon. I think Usman's got the ability to win, but I don't think he's going to finish him. The only way I see him finishing him is potentially slipping a submission here and there, but I think Usman's going to be too talented for that. I think his strength is, as we've seen in the Colby fight, Usman can stand there and strike, but I think his best bet is to take Burns down, keep him there, control him for the fight, and get the 25-minute decision done. And I truly think he'll do that.
Yeah, this is a fun fight. To people who don't want to watch this one, like, I don't understand, because Kamaru Usman, I understand he's a boring fighter. He was boring against Tyron Woodley. He was boring against Jorge Masvidal. You want to know why he was boring? Because he could nullify their game by getting them up against the fence and grappling them. But you saw what happened when he fought Colby Covington. Colby Covington can match his wrestling. Gilbert Burns can match it. Gilbert Burns threatens with submissions and things like that. I don't think this is going to be a grappling affair. I think this is going to be a stand-up affair. And I think that is very exciting because the last time Kamaru Usman fought someone very similar to Gilbert Burns in terms of their grappling abilities, it ended up being one of the best fights we've ever seen.
Yeah.
So this could very well be a very, very exciting fight. And who would have thought Gilbert Burns would be fighting for a title when back in 2018 he got knocked out by Dan Hooker? Like, if you said in 2 years you're going to be fighting Kamaru Usman for the welterweight strap, we all would have laughed. The guy was unranked. He didn't even have a division. He fought everybody that wanted to fight. He fought all the time. Any contender, didn't matter. He fought the guys that were undefeated, that were on ridiculous winning streaks. And here he is, fighting for the title. That being said, I do think Gilbert Burns has something that, maybe the fans don't know about. I think that's the reason why Kamaru Usman left. I think there's something there that they know, and I don't know what it is, but one of the hardest things is, how do you beat someone that you've fought every day for years? These guys that know each other inside out and backwards. And that's a scary thing. If you're the champion and you're fighting someone that knows you inside out, there's nothing Kamaru Usman's going to present to Gilbert Burns that he hasn't seen before. Vice versa, exact same thing the other way around. But Gilbert Burns the past 2 years looks like a different fighter every time he fights. He'll come up with a different strategy. And I think that's going to be the difference, is you have no idea which Gilbert Burns is going to show up. You have no idea if he's going to strike. You have no idea if he's going to submit. You have no idea what he wants to do. And that's a scary thing. So for me, Gilbert Burns might actually win this. And I have Gilbert Burns winning. I think it's going to be a unanimous decision. But this is a fun one. This is so much fun. And I just think Gilbert Burns, knowing Kamaru Usman inside out and backwards, is going to be advantageous for him.
I'm going to take one of my comments back. I don't think it's preposterous, the fact for Burns to finish Usman. I think about it, I think it is possible, but it's going to be extremely tough. Usman, he's got a chin on him, and I don't think it will be preposterous if people think that, but I think it's going to be extremely tough, and I'm really looking forward to this one because thinking about it even more, I think I'm actually thinking about it a lot more. I think it's more 50-50 than I thought. I think both guys know each other inside out, and I think it just comes down to who has the better night. And I'm really torn on my prediction now. I'm actually thinking about it. I didn't think about it too much, so I've not had this before where I'm close to changing my prediction. But seeing as you've gone Burns unanimous decision, I'll stick with Usman via unanimous decision.
Yeah, it's a hard one. And I usually go for the champion. I'm always like, oh, it's going to be the champion. There's a reason why they're champion. So if there's a challenger that I seriously think could win the fight, I'm going to probably write his name down because it's new. It's not something I'm used to doing. Mm-hmm. So for me, Gilbert Burns I have Gilbert Burns. And I think whoever is the underdog, if you're a betting man, vote on the underdog, because there's a good chance the underdog is going to win this fight, regardless of who it is. So that's my 2 cents. Yeah,
like I said, I never had that before where I was second guessing my prediction, but now I'm looking back at it, it's basically 50-50, innit? They've trained with each other inside out for years. So, like I said, you've gone Burns. I'll stick with Usman.
I like that. I like having a little bit of a diversity there with our picks. I'll ask you one last question before we end this. Which fight on this card are you looking forward to the most? If you could only watch one fight outside of the main event, because obviously the title and everything, that would be everyone's go-to. If you could only watch one fight, which would it be?
That's a tough one. Based on the fact of how invested I am in the fight, I'm going to say the Kelvin Gastelum just to see how his career is going to go after this one. But who would you say?
I like the opening fight. I've talked to both Dean Thomas and I haven't talked to Julian, but I've talked to Dean Thomas and I've talked to Miranda Maverick. So when I have two people that I know well and I like them both, it's not that I'm not picking anybody. I like both. Whoever wins it. I have no favorites. but there's more riding on it. And I get nervous because I don't like to see either one lose. So for me, anytime someone I've talked to fights, I tend to watch those fights. So I really like that fight. And I think stylistically, it's a very exciting fight for both women.
100%. Like you say, any fighter I speak to as well, I'm always hoping they get the win. Luckily for myself, I've not spoke to a fighter where they're going to be fighting someone else I've spoken to. I'm not looking forward to that one. But
it's hard. It's hard.
Them ones I'll probably just stay out of it and hope for a good fight. But yeah, a lot of the fighters I've spoken to, like Volkanovski, after speaking to him, I'm always hoping he can pull it out. And obviously 260, he's got it. And the guys like Tom Aspinall, Lerone Murphy as well from over here in England, I'm always rooting for them guys after speaking to him as well. But yeah, if I had to choose a fight I'm looking forward to, I wouldn't say looking forward to the most, but the one I'm going to make sure I'm definitely watching is the Kelvin Gastelum fight, just to see where his fight propels after this.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much for the time, man. I know.
No worries, brother.
You're on the other side of the world, so yeah. I appreciate it anytime that you make time to jump on here and give your picks. So if you haven't yet, be sure to follow Mason Shatwell on Twitter. He's got some great takes. He's got some great interviews, like you said, with Volkanovski. So be sure to check him out on there. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Anything you'd like to plug before we end this?
If anything I want to plug, I just ask everyone to subscribe to the Sports Sesh Podcast YouTube channel. We're only 2 subscribers away from 50 subs. I know it's not the biggest milestone, but it's the first of many to come. So if you can, guys, please subscribe, and it greatly appreciated.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just reached 100, and I mean, we never ask for it, we never look for it. It's just any like, any subscribe, any comment, negative or positive, it means a lot. So be sure to check it out. Be sure to like any of his videos. Be sure to comment. Anything goes a long way for the two of us. So thank you very much for the time, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on my channel. Also check out his. We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, brother.